And we love maps, and that's the good thing, because with a map you can convey very complex information. And this is what we call descriptive geography. Then immediately, of course, you want to know what it is that I'm describing. And I am describing in this one the location of single-family dwellings with conventional financing. And this is over a multi-year period in the greater Atlanta market area. It's about a 5-year period. And this is the location of sales of single-family dwellings with cash purchase at closing. So, first of all, the construction of this, you know, in a market like ours in particular, we say cash is king. To an analyst, we say data is king. And so when I took on this assignment given to me by Realtor University, I thought, no problem at all. And it turns out that, well, to do this map, I need to have linkage between 3 data sets. And I thought, well, this is going to be easy. I have to have one, the property assessor's data file, you know, the attributes that they keep for the valuation of your house to pay property taxes. I need to have the local geographic information systems polygon file where each parcel is in a special map format. And they are commonly linked with the parcel identification number, the PIN. So, you know, you're familiar with this. I thought, okay, all I need to then do is connect to the clerk of courts. And so I have 3 connected databases and I know how they're financed. Well, yeah, so a lot of heads are shaking there. So in fact, what I found out was, and this is one of my policy recommendations to overcome, is the clerk of courts offices don't talk to the property assessor offices. And the property assessor offices are usually very tight with the GIS office. So, if you are associated with the clerk of courts, get with it. This is the 21st century. You need to have a parcel identification number. So that was one of my recommendations is, okay, that's easy to say, parcel identification number. Well, they also have the legal description of the records. Well, you try to match, you know, literally dozens of text information so that we can, so long as we have a common field, we can link these things together. So you might be getting a clue, we can give them a clue, and that GIS is a lot of database management. So, and also, you look at this map, and you look at that map, and they're both descriptive. And then you want to go to the next step, which is I want to explain what is going on in these maps. What is the commonality between these maps? And so once I have explained, I want to develop a general reasoning, and if I can prove it, at that point I can call it a theory. And you say, well, so what? Okay, speaking as an analyst, I want to then be able to predict. So where will cash sales be in the future? What kind of people will be cash sales people? And I'll show you my approach in this analysis here. So I have this data set, and I worked with a company in Atlanta, interactive group, Bridge Interactive Group, BIG is their name. And so they did a special run of their data, and they did not normally produce this. We talked about the algorithm of linking the textual, legal, descriptive information of the data files together. But they did not have it geocoded. That is, put it into latitude, longitude, coordinate format, which I did. And this is what we saw. Now, this is for a 5-year time period, 2009, 10, 11, 12, 4-year time period. And so the generality is that the percent that, in terms of price, the lower price houses, you can see on the upper right graph, greater proportion of houses sold with cash. A lot of houses that are very high end, but mainly lower end houses, under $120,000. And we also see is that in cash 2009, we had 706 sales. The cash in 2010, 589. 2011, 12,600. So it's jumped. And now it's in 2012. Now this is just the first quarter of 2012. It's about 4,000. So if it keeps at that pace, we'll be looking at 16,000 cash sales. Now, you might say, well, why not just go to the MLS database? Well, that would be great, because many MLSs track the type of financing. But not all houses are sold MLS. And so if it doesn't sell MLS, it's what I call dark data. So we talk about in physics, astrophysics, dark data. So why is it the universe continuing to expand, or is it contracting? And there's something out there that we can't see, and that's dark data. Well, we've got dark data too. And for an analyst, we have to bring it to light so that we can make better business decisions. And that's the next step. After we predict, so what? Okay, we can predict. We want to incorporate that into our investment model or in our risk management. So are these slides online for the download?
Yeah, it will be available for all in the website. I cannot tell you exact website address, but it will be available.
So I'm not going to go through all these numbers. You don't want to hear me read this database, but what we can see in this is that houses that sold for cash mainly were built in what we call in the mid-century, last century, up through 2005. And you can see in that first chart at the top, that row that says cash, and then going over, beginning with 1955 year built, 2,900. So this kind of information I can get from the property assessment file. That's the value of linking it together. And then 3,000 sold roughly that were built in the 1975 subsequent period, 3,700, then 3,000, and so forth. So you can pour through this. There's a bias toward cash sales for the newer houses. And so you can pour through this. And then we have the cash sales in terms of days on the market. Most cash sales will occur within the first 60 days. And then there's still a lot in the subsequent in the subsequent 60 days. Let's say in the first 120 days, we've got over 50% of all of our cash sales occurring then. And after that, it drops off precipitously. So we're looking at cash sales as being where the seller is under duress, or where the buyer is favorably financed and taking an opportunity. You say, well, okay, I knew that. And I didn't even have to give you a board rotation and second order conditions to prove that. Okay, so then here we have financing method by year transaction, and the percent that the numbers that are cash sales by year going up very significantly to 12,000, over 12,000 in 2011. Now I'm going to shift to some other work for a moment. Now we have a little bit of understanding. There's a lot of work yet to be done, because I only understand now a bit about Atlanta, and that's the conundrum of an analyst. So somebody say, well, what about Seattle or Kansas City? And what we need to do at the national level is enact policy where, with minor effort at the local level, I know in Alachua County, I asked the property assessor's office, will you convert the legal description to a format that connects to the clerk of court's office? And so, well, we don't normally do that, we don't like to do that, but for me they did. And so for Matt here in the audience, who was the head of the board of MLS in Alachua County, where Gainesville is, Ed Crapo stepped in, and his office helped me out. You'll see some maps on that. But now I want to understand what kind of people are buying cash, or at least the neighborhoods in which cash transactions are occurring. Now, you may think that folks like me are obsessed with census data, and it's all about census data. And if you are affiliated with CCIM, and you go through their real estate market analysis curriculum, or you go onto their site to do business, you'll see that after you read my book, I have very little reliance on demographic data from the census. I instead use psychographic data, lifestyle segmentation profiles. Now, for many of you, that's new, and it shouldn't be, because this is the way we work today. I will guarantee you that every multi-branch retailer with more than 300 stores uses psychographic data to forecast what the revenues will be before they open up their retail store, and they can do that with less than a 3.5% error, based upon the procedures that, and they all have my book on their desks, and they've all hired my students when I was teaching at university, couldn't produce them fast enough. And so the psychographic data, what is psychographic data? Well, in economics, we talk about the marginal propensity to consume, the MPC. So if your income goes up by $1,000, what will be your expenditures? What will be your increase in expenditures on housing? Well, we have that data on individual households now. Data is king. And who controls this data, the source, are your big credit bureaus, your Equifax, your Experian. They have this stuff. They know who you are, and they know where you are. And they categorize, and then they sell this information to vendors like I'm using ESRI, E-S-R-I, their psychographic profiles. That's very dominant in the industry. And their profiles are called Tapestry. You can check it out on the internet or in my book. And so they have, which is common in the industry, we have 62 different categories of people. So if you're categorized in one category, you're going to be more like in consumption to people in other categories. And when we do geospatial analysis, we first of all calculate a trade area, which itself is a whole big mathematical kettle of fish, but it's not just a circle. And then we look at how many people of that psychographic category are within the trade area. Now we'll throw some geography in it, that near customers are more important than distant customers. And so the demand goes down as we go away from the retail store. Oh, you all knew that. Well, you know, we in academics don't know that until we can mathematically prove it, but now we know it. So we can say it's theory. It's theory, because we know it and we've proven it. And we accepted it, and it's empirically verifiable. So this is an early, and by the way, this also introduces another mathematical concept for you forecasters of real estate. It ain't linear, okay? Think about housing prices going up. And say, man, it's just been going up, and I'm going to forecast that it's going to go next year by the same amount. Real estate's never done that. Nothing does that. The world is not a straight line. Uh-oh, he's getting a bit too mathematical for me. Okay, well, I'm sorry. The world is a logistic scheme. It's shaped like that. It starts out, it takes off, and that takeoff ain't going to occur all forever, and then it goes flat again until there's some perturbations. So I'm often asked, what's wrong with the economy today? What's wrong with the housing market? I said, well, first of all, consider that all real estate is local, so it depends upon what market we're talking about. And also, what do you mean by normal? And then right there, they'd see it in, so their eyes glass over and says, we're not going to interview you. And I'm throwing out the show. But then if you're a believer in that upward sloping part, it's going to continue on forever. It's not. And we want to be able to forecast as an investor when that's going to flatten out. So right now we're in a flat market. It may be that this is equilibrium. And prices don't change when you're in equilibrium. It's when you're in disequilibrium for all your economists. Prices change when you're in disequilibrium. Because something's happened. Something's happened where financing becomes easy. Prices go up. Something happened when then financing is tough. Well, prices go down. And so there's that perturbation from outside that changes equilibrium. And it's as the market changes to that, we go into equilibrium. Okay. And we can categorize people in marketing, because I'm affiliated with the Department of Marketing at UF. In marketing, we can position people into their sequence of adoption. Oh, I also wrote a book on that. So you can get that free download on the internet. Okay, this is categories of as reads tapestry, and you can get this from my PowerPoint. This is examples, high society, and so forth. And I'm not talking about income. This is about consumption style. So on the horizontal axis, we have income range. On the vertical axis, we have a category of lifestyle segmentation profiles. So there's high society. Well, their incomes range from about 85,000 over 182,000. So it's we just call them L1s, but they're consumption profiles. And you'll see that family portrait L9. Look at that range, income range. It's not that you'll see that they are largely involved in housing foreclosures. We know who they are. Before they take out a mortgage, we know who is in this psychographic category. That is really helpful for a bank to know that for a financial institution. So what I have done with Stephanie Rodkis, who's an economist at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, we have found that households that are categorized, and this is using Federal Reserve data, by the way, households that are categorized by high society, L1s, L2, upscale avenues, L5, senior styles, got lots of them in Florida. Very low probability, they're not going to foreclose. On the other hand, you take the L9s, the family portraits, they're going to foreclose. L9s, and interesting that 33% of the sales in my database were to L9s in cash. I would expect these are not the L9 households, but as investors buying in L9-dominated neighborhoods because they view it as a good investment. And so you'll find on the internet, you get from this what the description of these people are, L9's family portrait, fast-growing population segment, presence of children, ethnically diverse, 30% are Hispanic and so forth. 3.1 people per household, and the descriptions even get down to what kind of car they're going to drive. And then the other groups here. We have found in other work that households that are living within a walkable environment are less likely to foreclose. And that was referenced in The Economist, a big British publication, very prestigious for an academic to be even quoted in there. And that was nice. So, yeah, housing foreclosures are less in a walkable neighborhood. We calculated, well, what's happening for cash transactions within walkable neighborhoods, no difference. But a lot of VA loans. So, huge propensity of VA loans, but there is no bias of cash versus non-cash in walkable neighborhoods based upon the locations of the market. FICO scores, don't believe an economist that says, well, it's because of bad loans. Here's Birmingham, Alabama, and we, using Fed data and some other data, we were able to calculate the FICO scores of households that were, the mortgages that were going into default. And we said, yeah, there's a lot, the red dots in that left map, FICO scores 485 to 585, those are foreclosures. It probably never should have been given a loan. But it ain't that easy. Now we're in San Francisco. Look at the foreclosures here. These are people over 700. Places are different. So what goes on in San Francisco is different than what goes on in Birmingham. What a surprise. Very different economic bases, very different places. So one national money model isn't going to work for us. All real estate is local. All financing is local. And so you need somebody on your staff to bring this local information to you to make better decisions. I think I'm going to stop there. That was Lawrence's go to the throat, have the cane come in and pull me up.
Thank you very much. One of the beneficial parts, particularly for our
presenters is to get some questions, so we will have that time at the end. But here's my couple of observations